Hi Lorraine, it's lovely to meet you.
Hi Taffy, yes you too.
We're still okay to go ahead with our appointment this afternoon, yes?
Yes please, that'd be great.
Wonderful. So I sent Julia a text the other day just letting her know that you had reached out and thanked her for trusting me enough to pass on my details to you. So how do you know each other?
Oh, we used to work together. It's been a while since we've seen each other though, and life happens. But we ran into each other at the tennis club one night and ended up catching up for a couple of hours.
It must have been nice to reconnect.
Yeah, it really was. We decided to meet up every couple of months for a walk and a general catch up.
That sounds lovely. So where's the first catch up happening?
North Beach.
You should stop in at Lavendi if you get a chance. It's a really lovely spot and a great little cafe.
Yeah, I think we will. Oh, oops, I love Lavendi.
I'm sure you'll have a great time. So let's see how I can help you out.
Sure.
So I've reviewed the information that you provided, and the good news is it looks like I've got some options for you. Before we go through any of that, I'll just give you a quick basic rundown of how I do things so that you know what to expect, and that way by the end of our appointment you and I are on the same page in terms of what's happened, where you're at now, and what we can achieve, and any plans that we might need to put in place.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, so a little about my background. So I started in retail banking and was in the industry for about 8 years. I've been in the lending space for nearly 6 years now. The last 3 years were when I branched out on my own as a broker. Now, there aren't any fees for this appointment today. I don't charge an initial consult fee, but in some situations I might invoice for any excess services. If that's the case, I'll always advise of the possibility of that first. Now, how I get paid is I receive a commission from the bank when a loan is drawn down. So the Privacy Act applies. Anything we discuss remains between us and the lender of your choosing when we get to that part. I'll also send you a copy of the credit guide that I'm required to provide as part of my services.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So have you got any questions before we proceed?
No, let's get going.
Great. Thanks for completing that client information form for me and providing some preliminary documents. What I'd like to do is just go through everything, review it all, and just double check that I am on the same page as you in terms of where you're at, what you're looking for, and just clarify some information if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I know you want to get your own place. What else would you like to achieve?
I basically want to start from scratch. After my divorce, all our major assets were sold. So after I get my own place, I'm looking at buying an investment property basically as soon as possible. I just don't know what I can afford.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just making note of that. All right. So I have done some quick calculations already, which I'll go through with you a little bit later. How much are you paying in rent at the moment?
$850.
Per fortnight?
Per week.
Oh, wow.
Yep, a bit on the pricey side, but it comes fully furnished, which made life easier at the time.
Okay, no worries. What sort of properties have you been looking at?
I think I'd like a unit in Wollongong.
Okay, yeah.
I've always been fond of houses with backyards, but the kids are all grown up, so it's not like I really need the space. Be nice not to have to worry about gardening and having less to clean, as we all do.
I'm all for less cleaning. Okay, so you've noted 2 adult children, but one is temporarily living with you. What's the situation there?
The youngest is currently living with me, but not for much longer. Her and her boyfriend are going to move in together. They just need to wait another 2 months or so for the current tenants to move out.
Okay, no problem. So really, it is short term.
Yep.
No problem.
This time,
Oh.
probably the boomerangs and come back.
Oh, okay. So and what about your partner?
We don't live together. We've decided it's better to keep our own places.
Okay, yep, that's absolutely fine. Now, you also receive a carer's allowance for your aunt.
Yes, that's right. She's in assisted living. She's quite old now, so she needs help with things. And I also don't want her alone too often. I've got a cleaner for her every Monday, a carer that's with her every Tuesday. I'm with her for about half a day every Thursday and Saturday, and I know the kids take her out Sunday morning for a coffee every now and then.
I'm sure she loves seeing you regularly. Have any properties caught your interest recently?
I saw an apartment. The asking price is $750,000. The real estate agent said to seek some advice because it was built on an old petrol station.
Oh, all right. Okay, so I'll explain that a little bit later in terms of why the real estate agent said to seek some advice. So what has been your thoughts about the investment property then?
I haven't really thought too much about it, to be honest. Something in good condition, a convenient area. I think I'd rather have long-term tenants because it seems like a lot less hassle.
Okay.
I'd like to set up a property portfolio again and then essentially have rental income cover my living expenses when I eventually retire. Wouldn't hurt to have something as backup in case the kids ever need help.
Okay, I understand. So just as a heads up, it's a good idea to seek tailored financial advice to ensure you're making the best decision for yourself when it comes to like investments and including investment properties. I'll refer you to a financial planner who I've worked with numerous times in the past. He'll be able to help with advice and structuring things to your best advantage, and like taking into account, your plans and your goals and stuff.
Okay, that'd be great.
No worries. So you're a self-employed business consultant. You specialize in policy and procedures, and you've been self-employed for 6 years now?
That's right.
Okay, so just tell me how long you've been in that line of work.
Oh, gee, it must be about 12 years or so now. I branched out on my own so I had more flexibility.
Oh, that's why I branched out on my own too. Okay, so I've got your income last financial year declared as approximately 90 grand after tax. I do have a copy of your last financial year's tax return as well, which is great. Thanks for that. Now, obviously, your most recent year hasn't been done yet. We've still got a couple of months to go before we hit the end of June. Would your accountant be able to provide me any year-to-date financials, like any of your BAS statements, your profit and losses?
They should. I'll double check, although they're not the most reliable. I usually have to chase them multiple times. Is there anything else I need to ask them for?
What I'll do, there probably will be, so I'll send you an email after our appointment with any supporting documents required, and I'll actually highlight the ones that your accountant will be able to provide. Alternatively, I'm also more than happy to approach them directly if that works for you. What I'll do is I can give them a quick call first, just to introduce myself, then send them a request via email. I'll copy you in that email, and that way, because I'll probably want to just double check with you first for privacy reasons before they release any of your information to me. Once I do that, hopefully then they can just share those documents directly with me.
Okay, that would be great. Save some time.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
No problem. All right, I'll just remember to grab details off you later on. So tell me a little more about the note you've got here regarding an expected increase to your income by about 20 grand, and then there's some bonuses on top of that as well.
Okay, I've managed to secure a 12-month contract with an existing client. They've been with me almost since the beginning.
That's amazing. You obviously do your job very well.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Have you got a copy of the contract you can send me?
Sure, let me forward that to you now.
Great. While you do that, do you mind telling me a little about what they do?
They're a large import-export company. When I first started working with them, they were experiencing huge growth and needed some help to manage this. They've been doing really well and have recently acquired a few major clients.
That's good. How are they paying for your time and your expertise?
We've agreed that I'll be available every Monday for anywhere from 5 to 6 hours to work with them exclusively. They'll pay me $385 for the day.
Okay.
If they see an increase in profit as a result of my services, they'll pay me a bonus of 0.35% of the profit up to a maximum of $2,000 per quarter.
Okay. All right, no worries. So has there been any discussion about the contract being extended or future opportunities for your services with this particular company?
Not at this stage. At the moment, I review their existing policies and procedures roughly once every quarter, and I will continue to do so after the contract ends. It's still too early to tell if there'll be additional work similar to this anytime soon, whether it is for this company or any other.
Okay, I understand. So I can see that you've got about 64 grand in savings, and your parents have also gifted you 40.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So that's great. Are you prepared to spend the entire 104,000 towards your purchases?
I think I'll keep the 4,000 as a buffer and try sticking to no more than 100,000 towards it.
Sure. Are there any options you may have that can help you get into your home?
Like what?
I'll give you some examples. So, for example, would your parents be in a position to gift more funds or perhaps consider being a guarantor? Some people consider selling assets, if that's appropriate.
Oh, I see what you mean. As far as my parents, I could ask them, but they've already given me money, so I only consider them as a last resort.
Yeah, that's okay. Just thought I'd ask, just in case we have other options we can tap into. Let's do a quick review of your existing liabilities so I can determine what your priorities are with them. You've just got the one credit card with a limit of 15,000, and based on your recent statements, you usually average a spending of 3,000 to 3,500 in expenses each month. Are you willing to reduce or cancel the facility if required?
My preference is to keep the credit card, but I suppose I'd be happy to reduce the limit.
Okay, no worries. Let me just make a note. All right, is there any particular reason you've kept it at that limit?
It was the maximum I qualified back when I applied, a bit of a safety net, I guess, just in case.
Okay, that's okay. Nothing wrong with having a high credit limit at all. It does impact borrowing power or serviceability though.
Oh, okay, I never thought about that.
That's okay. I'll go through some calculations with you a little bit later just to give you an idea of how much an impact your credit limit actually has. It's completely up to you what you choose to do about it after we discuss your options. What about this store card facility? I can see it's nearly paid off.
Yes, I plan on closing that facility as soon as it's paid off. I only got it because it was an interest-free for 2 years for my new TV. I can pay it off and close it straight away if need be.
Okay, great. Look, it may not be necessary, but we can address that in a little more detail later. Your business bank account has an overdraft facility.
Yes, I'd really like to get rid of that if I could. It was helpful at the beginning when I was starting up, but it's quite expensive when I dip into it.
Okay, no worries. Let's go through your assets quickly. So you own your car outright.
Mm-hmm.
What's the year, make, and model of that one, please?
It's a 2019 Mazda CX-5.
Okay, beautiful. And how much do you think it's worth?
No, maybe 40,000.
Okay. I've got your super balance around 180.
Yes,
And who's that with?
that's currently with ART, but I'm considering setting up a trust and eventually an SMSF.
Okay. Have you spoken to your accountant about any of this?
No, I'm thinking after this year's tax return is lodged, I'm going to find another accountant.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
So
Well,
we'll start from scratch.
that's okay. So when you find one you're happy to work with, let me know. And at that point, I'll also introduce myself to your new accountants as your broker. It's important, especially with my self-employed clients, that I work with them so that collectively we can help you achieve what you want to achieve. I'll make note of this for the financial planner as well when I organise a referral for you, so that they already have an idea of what your plan is.
Okay, that sounds great.
You've got some shares too, worth roughly 7.5.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. What about household contents? Any furniture, electronics, any collectible items, jewelry?
Oh, yeah, there's probably about 30,000, not much.
Okay, that's all right. All right, you mentioned earlier that all your major assets had to be sold as a result of your divorce. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Basically, we had 3 properties that we sold. We fell behind in some of our repayments because everything was a bit of a mess, but all that got fixed up with the sale proceeds. We also had to pay capital gains tax. I arranged a payment plan on that, but it's been paid off as well.
Okay, so these are the financial difficulties that you mentioned in your email?
Yes.
Okay, and were there any other financial impacts from back then?
Unfortunately, yes. We also had 2 credit cards that were maxed out, one of which ended up being managed by collection agents, but they've both been paid out since.
Okay, great. So what about things on the business front? So most of your financials are consistent, but I did notice one significant variance.
Oh, that's right. One year there was a loss that was carried forward as a result of a failed partnership.
That explains it. Are there any plans to take on another business partner?
No, I think it's much easier not to, especially after the loss I incurred from 3 years ago. I may consider an assistant for some admin staff, but I don't really plan on being busy enough to take on any permanent staff.
I understand. So let's quickly address the apartment that you're interested in that was built on the old petrol station and why the real estate agent said to seek advice.
Okay.
So basically, we need to do our due diligence in making sure that the apartment would be considered acceptable security by the lender. Now, in this particular case, it's not as simple as whether the lender would take or accept apartments in general, because most lenders do. They might have their own restrictions, but the issue in this particular case is because it was built on an old petrol station. Whereas basically the site was used for potentially contaminating activities, and that might impact its suitability as security for the loan. If a property isn't considered suitable or acceptable security, then we can't proceed with a loan with that lender.
Okay, I understand. I was interested, but it was more than I wanted to pay anyway.
Okay, fair enough. On that note then, let's have a look at your borrowing capacity. I ran some quick numbers based on your financials and a few assumptions just to give us an idea to work with. Your maximum borrowing capacity is sitting around $375,000 if we keep all your existing liabilities as is.
Oh, well, that definitely throws that apartment out of the picture, doesn't it?
That's okay. Thankfully, I suppose you already had in your mind that it was more than what you wanted to pay anyway. Although, don't let this borrowing capacity figure discourage you. Given our conversation, let's make some changes because it will be a bit higher than that. So, let me just go through and make some changes. Now, if we keep your credit card as is, let's get rid of the store card and the business overdraft. Okay, so if we do that, your maximum borrowing capacity increases by about $15,000 to $20,000. Now, I know you've had home loans before, so what we're about to discuss probably won't be new information to you, but let's consider what this means for you anyway. So your savings contribution, maximum $100,000 because you want to keep a little bit as a buffer. That $100,000 needs to cover your 20% deposit, stamp duty, and any fees, including legal fees, government fees, bank fees. Covering a 20% deposit means not having to pay something called lender's mortgage insurance, which is an insurance premium that we can capitalize on your loan so that the bank is protected from basically lending you more than 80% of the purchase price or the valuation amount. If we budget based on your savings contribution, then the maximum purchase price you can afford is $415,000. Does all this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's say we approach it a little bit differently and we budget based on your maximum borrowing capacity instead. We still need to account for your maximum contribution being $100,000, but in this scenario, we just would have less than your 20% deposit. So lender's mortgage insurance would be payable, but if we can capitalize an estimated lender's mortgage insurance amount onto your loan, but still stay within your borrowing capacity, the maximum purchase price is actually a little bit higher. It ends up being about $470,000.
Okay, it's much better.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier you were happy to reduce your credit limit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me tweak the numbers a little so you have an idea of how much your credit limit actually impacts your borrowing capacity. So, hypothetically, if your credit limit was $5,000 instead of the $15,000, your borrowing capacity is more around $430,000 to $435,000. So essentially, by reducing your credit limit by $10,000, you've increased your borrowing capacity by about $40,000.
Mm-hmm. No way up.
Yeah. So, however, just something to note here. This doesn't include. This doesn't increase your savings contribution though. So, if you still want to avoid paying lender's mortgage insurance, you can still only go for a maximum purchase price of the $415,000. If you don't mind paying lender's mortgage insurance, we have an increased borrowing capacity to work with, which this actually brings your maximum purchase price to about $505,000. What are your thoughts?
What are the monthly payments on that last scenario? The one where the maximum purchase price is $505,000.
Yeah. So for a purchase price of $505,000, your loan amount would be around $432,000, including lender's mortgage insurance. So you're looking at approximately $2,700 a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay with paying LMI, but I'd like to cap repayments of approximately $2,500 a month. What would that mean?
All right. In that case, all right, that your loan amount can't be more than $400,000, including lender's mortgage insurance, to stick with repayments being $2,500 a month. This means your maximum purchase price is 475,000 if we stick to contributing no more than 100,000 of your savings. Now, do you think you'll be able to find something in that price range?
I guess I'll be a little limited with options, but I'm not after anything necessarily fancy or brand new, and I don't need much space.
Okay. All right. So, affordability wise, this will mean you'll have to wait a couple of years after buying your apartment or unit before you're in a position to purchase an investment property, because you won't actually have enough borrowing capacity for another loan as a sole borrower.
I understand all that. So depending on how things go, my partner and I may consider purchasing the investment together, or perhaps one of my kids will want to purchase an investment
Okay.
with me.
All right, no worries. I'll make note and I'll keep in touch anyway, so we can always revisit options for investment properties whenever you're ready. Now that we've established a budget, let's have a talk about what we could do in terms of what we call loan structure or loan features. So this includes things like if we're talking about variable rate versus fixed rate, or offset versus redraw.
Yes, I wanted to know whether an offset facility would be beneficial.
Okay, based on your question, I take it you've not had offset facilities on any of your previous loans?
No, my ex-husband preferred to keep things as simple as possible, so the less accounts the better.
I see. All right, so it really depends on the situation. The idea of an offset account is any money sitting in that account saves you on interest charged to your loan at the end of each month. The more interest you save, the faster you pay off your loan. So if the aim is to save on interest and pay off the loan faster, then yes, absolutely beneficial, especially at the moment when interest rates on home loans are actually higher than what you would earn on a savings account, for example. If you're wanting more information around whether you should have an offset facility or not, definitely bring it up with the accountant and the financial planner just to get their advice and their thoughts on that.
Okay, I will. So far it sounds good to me, and I can't see a downside to having it.
There is also full offset and partial offset.
Oh geez, they make things difficult, don't they? God, it's getting confusing.
Yes and no. So let's have a chat about that. So depending on the type of loan and which lender, some offset facilities will allow you to offset at 100%, whereas some might only allow something like 60%.
I'm not sure I follow. This is getting confusing.
No, that's all right. Let's use an example. So let's say you've got a loan amount of 500,000 and you have 100,000 in your offset facility. Interest is calculated based on your loan balance, but minus the offset facility balance. So 100% offset facility means the entire balance of your offset account, being the entire 100,000, is accounted for. So interest is only calculated on 400,000. A 60% facility, however, means that only 60% of the entire balance of your offset account, which would only be worth 60,000, is accounted for. So your interest is calculated at $440,000.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Great. So let's chat about fixed versus variable rates. You understand the difference between the two and how it affects the loan?
Yes, I do. The variable rate means my rate can change at any time the bank decides to change it, and fixed rate means my rate stays the same for a certain period. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So you are correct. Fixed basically means that it stays the same rate for a specific amount of time. Now, there are other things that might come into play though. So, for example, a lender may not offer an offset account for a fixed rate loan. Commonly, there are restrictions or limits on how much you can pay extra in repayments as well. What it comes down to is whether you prefer to have flexibility or predictability. Variable gives you flexibility, but in turn, your repayment amount may go up, it may go down, depends on how the rates move. Fixed means you know exactly what your repayments are for a specific period of time, but they stay the same regardless of whether the rate goes up or down. So there is also an option of what we call a split loan, which is where you can have part of your loan being variable and part of your loan being fixed.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I always thought you could have one or the other.
Yeah, so there's not exactly a limit on the number of loans you can have against the one property, for example, but more there's a limit on an overall amount, I guess, based on the value of the property. So earlier when we were talking, I mentioned like a 20% deposit. The magic number is 80% basically, so that you don't have to pay that lender's mortgage insurance.
Okay, that's right. Yep.
All right. So any questions or thoughts so far on what we've discussed?
No questions at this stage. Though I'm definitely leaning towards 100% offset facility. Not sure about the rest yet, but I will be making extra repayments while I'm still working and the business is going well.
That's okay. You don't necessarily need to make any decisions right now with how you want the loan structured. And it's important that you understand that there isn't a right or a wrong option or answer about any of it. It's about what you're comfortable with, what suits you, with or without the advice from the accountant and the financial planner. Considering you're wanting to purchase a unit and then an investment property as soon as possible, having an offset account will definitely help with that. So let's have a look at some lender and product options that offer 100% offset facility and a competitive interest rate.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen very briefly so that you can see the lender options. So here are the 4 lenders, all of which offer a 100% offset facility with their variable rate loan. Now you'll be able to see the interest rates range from 6.14 to 6.49%. But down the bottom, please take note of the fee section. So whilst all these products are variable loans with offset accounts, the lender charges vary. You can opt for a fixed rate loan with all of these lenders as well. However, only 2 lenders offer offset accounts with their fixed rate loans, and they are only partial offsets. Now, don't worry about remembering any of this. I will send you a copy so that you can actually have the options in front of you and look at it a little bit more closely.
Okay, thanks, Taffy. Boy, there's a bit to think about.
My pleasure. So is there anything else you'd like to chat about today?
That's all, I think. Just what's the process, what happens from here?
Okay, so I'll send you an email summarising the main points we discussed, what supporting documents I'll need from you, and include this lender option document. I'll also pass on your contact information to the financial planner I was talking about, along with some notes about what we discussed in terms of your goals. He will then set up an appointment like we did today just to have a chat. Do you have a preference as to whether you'd prefer he first make contact with you via phone or email?
Email is best during standard business hours.
Okay, no problem. I'll then check in with you in about a week or so, just see whether or not you're ready to proceed with an application at that point. We'll submit for pre-approval first so that you can confidently submit offers, and I'll talk you through the rest from there.
Okay, that sounds great. I'd like to get started on this as soon as possible, so I'll get what you need and chat to who I need to chat to.
Wonderful. And also, if you're happy with my service today, please pass my details on to someone you think I may be able to help too.
Okay, thanks, Taffy. You've been really helpful. I feel anxious about all of this after everything that's happened in the last 5 years.
I'm glad I was able to help. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat to me today. I'll check in with you in about a week. But until then, reach out at any time if you happen to have any more questions.
I will. Thanks again, Taffy. Have a great
Pleasure.
day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.